Hello friends and family, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's video, it will be a video to show what goes into the process of creating a deck and then making changes and adjustments to it. As many of you know, when Artisan releases a deck, I've been privileged, one of the privileged few, that they send decks to, the prototype decks. And, you know, they give us these decks with the task of really looking at them with a critical eye and making suggestions and recommendations for how they might improve upon it before creating the final and releasing the final deck, which has been the case so far with the Noblet, the Conver, and the Dodal. Now, I recently received the Noblet deck, which I have in my hand. This one is the preliminary deck that I and others went through with a fine-tooth comb, and this one is the final, which I have not yet opened. It's still sealed. I wanted to do the unsealing on camera so that my impressions are fresh and spontaneous as I look at it. So that is what this video will be about. In the meanwhile, however, and before I get to it, I wanted to show, well, the packaging was just lovely. It included a postcard of other decks besides the Noblet that they've done. They've done the Conver, and they've done the Dodal, as I mentioned, and a hint of other decks that are to come, and I won't spoil it by saying what they are. Also, I received my pouch. That was created just for the Noblet deck. A very nice presentation, handmade in Hungary. And you'll notice that the lining matches the back of the deck. Ooh, very nice. And that the pouch itself is made of a lush velvet. Now, I noticed that the deck fits outside of the box. So it's, I believe, created for the deck without the box. So how lovely is that? Very nice. Okay, so without further ado, I will unseal the deck offline so that you're not burdened with having to see me struggle with getting the plastic off, and we'll go through the cards side by side to see firsthand how the process by which they make changes. Alrighty, so I have put them in the same order, so it took a little bit of time. So on the left we have the preview deck, and on the right we have the final deck. Let's see. They both say the same thing, except one is identified as the preview deck and the other is identified as the first edition, and they made 2,000 copies. First thing right out of the gate is a difference in the color of the skin. They toned down the skin, at least on the bottom. The skin was different colors. The face was one, the hands another, and the rump and the legs another. So they tweaked that so that it was less salmon, and I think they toned down the salmon in every case where it appeared. You see in the hair has become less salmony. So the first thing really was the color of the salmon, and we'll see it everywhere it occurs, right? in the book, in the veil, in the garment. We also notice that this portion of the gown, they made it blue, that last fold. And perhaps it was intended to be a chair back or something. And they restored the colors, the different colors of the leggings, which was a good point because it was fashionable, historically fashionable, to have different colored leggings. And, you know, they restored it to the way it was. And, you know, in all fairness to them, you know, they have a challenging task because, you know, it's not 1650 anymore, and they're creating decks for the modern, you know, interpreter. And you know, so they're trying to get into the head of someone, you know, back in 1650, or when the deck was, you know, probably created, and understanding the visual clues that we're getting. And sometimes, you know, we all know, if we're honest, that TDM was a little bit of a hot mess. Okay, here they took out that background that they put in and left it more true. And now, as far as it not being exactly the same size as the original Noblet, it's close enough, and it's bridge size. And, you know, after all, the Noblets, you know, or the TDM, the game of tarot, really is a forerunner of our current game of bridge. So it's, I think, very appropriate that they should be bridge size. Haters are going to hate, but and they restored the colors of the chariot to the banisters, or whatever they're called, the posts. So a lot goes on when they, you know, send out review decks. And, you know, I take it very seriously. I sit down with facsimile decks because I have a lot of decks. You know, I have at least, you know, I have 2 facsimile decks of the Noblet. Plus I have the Fleur Noir, right? So, you know, people like myself will go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make suggestions. People who are accustomed to seeing the Noblet look a certain way may not appreciate some of the changes they make, right? And so they listen and they rethink and they, you know, take some of the suggestions, which I think is great. Now we see that in Justice, you know, they made a few tweaks, you know, not just to the color, but, you know, to the breakdown of the garment. You know, for example, the hermit, you know, made sense to them originally to make the cloak a gray on the inside. But once you pause and think that the reason it might have been yellow on the inside was to show the burning of the light in the lantern, then they made that tweak. I believe the tongue on the Hanged Man is their addition. I mean, the tongue was there. It was not colored red originally, but I believe they added the red. But, you know, come on. You know, I think it's fun. So there it is. And also you see that they restored the two different colored leggings because it was historically the fashion. And you know, there was ambiguity whenever you have the garments and they're like a hodgepodge of different shapes and colors. They kept the shape, but they, you know, changed the color. And I'm glad they changed the salmon. They toned it down because it was a little bit of a distraction. And they also restored what I thought was the reflection of the eclipse or whatever that light is. I think that's what that was intended to be. And I guess ultimately they agreed with me and they put it back. But this is why you have people look at your deck. And I've had some criticism on my feed, people saying, oh, you only like them because they give you free decks. Well, they give me the preview deck, but I have always supported them and purchased their, you know, their final decks, their final products. So I'm not in it because I'm getting free decks. I'm doing a service, you know. I mean, I'm spending hours perusing the preview decks. I don't know if everybody else is, but I am. And I'm really going, you know, I'm providing them with a service to help it, you know, help them come to their own conclusions about what a final deck should look like. And that's why I do these before and after videos. I did it for the Convert, and I'm doing it for the Noblet. And I'll do it for the Dodal when it arrives and all their future decks, you know, because I think it's important for people to see that, you know, just because you don't like something when we do our preview decks, it doesn't mean it's going to be on the final deck, right? They send them to people, and I presume that all the other people who do this service for them spend as much time and go through it as carefully, and they make their adjustments, you know, based on what others have said and suggested. And I think it's important to show that. Now, let's see. I don't want to confuse I don't want to confuse these decks because I'll never know which is which. But I think they've lightened up the gray as well. So they made the gray a little less dark. So I think it's a lighter gray. And where I really think Artisan, you know, really shines is in their, I mean, I love their decks, but I think in their pips, because we see, you know, the lattice work, you know, if in 1650 or 1660, or when the deck was created, you know, if they had the methods, the printing methods that we have, would they, you know, would there have been, you know, more clarification in the lattice work, and would you see the sword going through it? Ideally, I think you would. And I believe that that is what Artisan's goal has always been. Okay, so I believe that, you know, some of the swords had to be recreated, and this is one of them. And so they changed the way they imagined it to look on this final. Oh, excuse me, is this the 4? Oh, I'm going backwards. Okay, that's the 6. This is the 5. And it looks like did they change the red? I'm not sure that they changed the red. I'm looking at through you know, through the camera and without the benefit of glasses. So you're seeing it better than I am. And I'm looking at it now for the first time, just like you. But it does look like the red might be a little brighter in the finished product. But I can't be sure. If it is, it's very subtle. Again, restoring the different colored leggings. The lighter gray and the toning down of the salmon. And I'm seeing changes that I didn't suggest, so I know that they listened to others in or they maybe just made the decisions themselves when they were looking through it again, you know. I'm not the only person whose opinions they asked. So it appears as though they left well and left alone with the majority of the pips, other than brightening up the gray and I think also the red, unless it's an optical illusion that the red looks brighter once they lightened up the gray, which is entirely possible. But when you change one color, it can affect a work of art, which each of these individual cards are, right? I think tarot, the images on tarot are works of art. And I've mentioned it for every deck they've created, but the quality of the cardstock is divine if you're a reader. It's a linen finish. It's made to be shuffled. It's made to be used. If you're someone who likes to use TDM for readings and you're a prolific reader, you're going to want one of these decks as a workhorse deck. At least that's how I feel. It's kept in my little box of workhorse decks. And I can pop them in my handbag. I especially like popping the Noblet. I had been using this one, the preview, but I will be using, their final product as my, in my handbag when I use it. Because it's tiny, it's petite. I like small decks. And now that I have that beautiful pouch, I'll use that for sure. Although I will probably even put the pouch inside a pouch because it's such a lovely pouch. I wouldn't want it to get messed up in my handbag, but that's just me. So now I'm not comparing these right now to any of the facsimiles, you know. I'm just doing a side-by-side, obviously, of the preview and the final. But I like the final better than the preview. And I hope you also agree that they put a lot of effort and care into getting it right. And as I said, it isn't 1650 anymore. And so yeah, I think, you know, they're taking advantage of modern day technology. And who's to say that Noblet himself would not, had he had modern techniques at his disposal. And I know that they don't just, you know, create one cup or one coin and plop it in, you know, to be exactly the same. They each one of these coins and each one of the cups is individually drawn, which, you know, retains some of the irregularity of the original, the charm. But at any rate, the Convert and the Noblet, the finished products, are available on their website, https://www.artisantarot.com. And, you know, things like their pouch, I believe, are available, the one that I just showed you. I ordered socks. They'll be coming to me in the beginning of April, I think. And I think they have other goodies there, too. And they might even show what's coming next. I don't know if they're, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I know they have decks coming up. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, I don't know if they changed this a little bit, the color. When you change one thing, it maybe makes a difference in how you see the rest. So there we have it, almost. Oops, one more card. Just how to find them, artisantarot.com. And that is all, friends. Until next time, peace and stay well.